I reckon we're live. Should be all good. Just wait for people to come in. It's going to be another low energy stream. I'll say this again in a second. Because we still got people coming in. I'm just warning the VOD viewers, it's another low energy stream. I've been informed that it's okay to stream and not say so much, maybe. Hello everyone. Thank you, Telekinetics. Okay, kinesthetic? Anyway, thank you. Yeah, I did another quick scan of the chat from last stream, and I think I'm talking a bit low here, but maybe it's still coming through okay. I'm kind of leaning over towards the mic. I should have addressed this point up front, but somebody was asking, you know, what it was like working on the switch port and all that. I should have known that that would be a question and addressed it right away. There's not a lot I can talk about on that front. You know, obviously there's a certain amount of confidentiality there, and I'm not a lawyer and I'm doing all this by myself, so I don't know the exact specifics of what I can and can't discuss about it. So I'm going to have to stay pretty quiet about that part of it, just to be on the safe side, you know. I've been trying to think about what I can say about it, and I can just say it went fine. You know, I thought it was fine. Obviously, I'm thankful that Nintendo is going to allow the game on the Switch and all that. And I worked on it myself, so I was involved in the whole process. Yeah, and I don't know what else I can say, so I'm not going to say much. It was a good experience. It was a very good experience. Oh yeah, I have some bad news to share with you all. I was playing yesterday off stream and I got a 1 credit clear off stream. So that's already happened, if you're waiting for the big moment. I died twice though, so I only barely managed it. You don't really get extra lives, it seems like. If there is some kind of score requirement for an extra life, it must be absurdly huge, so I don't think there's any extra lives or anything. So I used up 2 lives, which means I only barely scraped by. So, you know, it's good. And I can say I've 1 credit cleared R-Type Delta on human difficulty, at least, which is pretty cool. But it's not the most satisfying because it's very close to being no damage, right? No death, no miss, whatever you want to call it. It's very close to being that, but it wasn't that, so might as well play a little more and see if it happens, you know? Besides, I'm looking forward to trying the harder difficulty and trying the other ships and stuff, but I'm just going to play with this ship. I might try another ship today, maybe. I've played a little bit with the tentacle ship. I might play a little bit with that. It was the successful run was the only time I've ever gotten through that stage 6 checkpoint thing. So I got all the way to the boss with the upgrades, but I didn't have a full dose meter, which means that the pod, this was something I think I forgot to mention, but it's another little sort of subtlety to the game which is hard to pick up on. The pod right now, see the way it's got the red swirls around it, that means that the delta attack is ready to be used. But also contact damage with the pod itself is much stronger when the gauge is full. So I think that's doing a lot of the heavy lifting against the stage 6 boss. Now I actually did okay, I got through the first phase, but then in the second phase the pod kind of got into a bad pattern and I was trying to adjust it and I got clipped. So then I just had a stupid death on the last stage. That's where I lost my 2 lives. But yeah, it was a pretty good run overall. I feel like I had another thing I wanted to address, but I don't remember what it was. There's somebody, again, I was skimming the chat and there was some kind of good question or comment there, and I thought I should address that, and I should apologize for missing it the first time around, because I'm always amazed if I go back and look at the chat, the amount of stuff that I've missed. So yeah, so apologies for all the stuff that I miss, but I can't remember what that thing was now. I play on the Steam Deck. Sorry, I can't read your whole question. It's kind of slipping off screen for me now. But yeah, I play on the Steam Deck. Yeah. I'm playing on the Steam Deck right now. There goes our no death. I don't think I'm so comfortable with the game that I should just reset. We'll just carry on. Trying to read the chat. Do I have any relatively new recommendations? Not really, no. Okay, we'll let that go. We'll let this one go. I might focus more on the game than on talking this time. Maybe. Yeah, I'm hoping for a new Xanima update sometime soon. That would be nice. Oh, we didn't talk about the Steam machine. Yeah, someone's asking about it. I mentioned before I don't have a computer at the minute. I do, but I haven't turned it on in years. It's on Windows 7 or something like that. It's gone, you know, it's just gone. I don't know if anybody feels the same way, so I'm curious to see how many of you agree with me here, but I've been looking forward to see what they do in this space, and I might still pick it up. I am a bit confused about it though, I have to say. Maybe there's just something about hardware that I don't understand, but I don't understand why they went for such a small form factor, because that just doesn't seem that important, especially when they already sell the Steam Deck, which is a little handheld. Well, it's not that little, you know, but I don't understand why it's so small. I could be misunderstanding here. Maybe someone in the chat can explain it to me, but my understanding would be that, let's say you double the size of the machine. I've never seen an Xbox Series X in person. I don't even know if that's the right name for the console. Is that their most recent one, the Xbox Series X, right? The worst named consoles ever. But it looks like it's about half the size of that. And I think I have a pretty good idea how big that is. I think I understand roughly how big it is. And I just think I would not look at a Series X and go, nah, that's just too big. I'm not going to put that in my game unit or whatever, you know. It's just, I need something smaller than that. I don't understand. Obviously, there's a certain amount of positive to it. It's kind of nice that it's small, you know. But if you could, I suppose what I'm getting at is, maybe this is an unrealistic expectation or whatever, but if this was on the table, if it was on the table that they double the size of the box so that it's Series X size, and they keep the price, whatever the price turns out to be, but they put 10% better components in it, I would buy the 10% better version. Because the size of the Steam machine is just not important to me at all, really, you know? And I think, I don't know if this is the part of the calculation of what they're doing, but I think that is a bit of a missed opportunity in the sense that you know, if what I've said is true anyway, that could be done. Even just 10%, I would accept 10% for double the size of the box. Obviously it'd be nice if it was more like 20 to 50% or something like that. Which I don't know if that's possible, but but I understand we're trying to keep the cost the same, right? So I'm trying to be realistic here. Even if it's just 10%, I would want the 10% better performance for the double sized box. So, and I think a lot of people maybe feel the same way. I don't know. So it's a bit of a shame because I just the PC space has been such a hassle in recent years, you know, like the price of RAM now is insane, the price of GPUs was insane. Maybe there'll be some moment where those two fucking price sine waves overlap with each other and they're both at a minimum and you can buy in and not feel like shit about what you're getting. But I don't want to have to keep track of that all the time. If Valve comes along and offers a nice pre-built box for a reasonable price, that's very appealing to me, you know. I wish it wasn't. I wish we were in a place where I could just feel comfortable buying all the components and putting together a computer myself, you know, but I don't know. Anyway, well, given that's the case, I still want a pretty good experience out on my PC, you know what I mean? I'm not looking for a tiny little box that just about plays games. I know it'll do better than that, I'm being a little unkind, but I want something that resembles more like an actual PC, you know what I mean? So, I don't know. I just don't get why it's the size that it is. That just seems like a strange decision to me. So, maybe somebody could explain it. I'm sure Valve is full of very smart people, you know. I'm sure a lot of thought has gone into it, but I just don't get it. Maybe they need to come out and talk about that a little bit, why it's that size, because I don't understand. It's appealing though in the sense that I do have a Steam Deck, so obviously then I can stream to the Steam Deck and stuff like that. They're making a nice little ecosystem, and I'm not totally down on the thing. Depending on the price point, I might snap one up. Because I do need a new computer, and I don't need absolute top of the range graphics, you know. I always try or maybe tried to present games in a good light on the channel with good graphic settings and stuff like that. You know, like when you put effort into a video about a game, you kind of want to make sure that the footage of it looks nice. And it feels fair to the developers as well. Because, I mean, all you have to do is think about the inverse, and it's immediately unfair, right? If you're a reviewer and then you turn everything to the absolute lowest setting and you say the game looks like shit, that's obviously not fair, right? So trying to be fair to developers, but I don't know. It's just very the cost of doing that these days is quite unreasonable. So I don't know. And then you buy a top of the range GPU and they're just trying to feed you fake pixels anyway, you know? Oh, I'm not. I have a laptop here, my work laptop. So that's what the stream is running on. The stream is being streamed from the laptop, but the game is being played on a Steam Deck right now. Hello, Panger. I still never know whether to read people's names out or not. I probably shouldn't, because I don't think I'd like it. Say hello. I just want to. Oh, that's unfortunate. Oh well. We'll carry on. Gotta be careful with that. I used Visual Studio Code. Don't know if you can call that an IDE or whatever. Not to tempt you, but you could probably make enough money to buy a decent PC if you enabled super chats for a few streams. I'm thinking about it. I am thinking about it, yeah. This channel got demonetized somewhere along the way, and it looks like I kind of have to start over with the process on that. I don't know. So. Just this one, not the main channel. What was I saying? Yeah, I'm tempted though. I am tempted. It was monetized once upon a time. This was probably a few years ago that it got demonetized. But it never made any real money. Even when I was streaming a fair bit, something like, I want to say $10, maybe $20 a month or something like that I was getting out of it. So you can see why I didn't really give a shit that it got demonetized. I bet it was because of the Yoshi's Island stream, maybe, yeah. Maybe. That might have been around the time it happened. I don't think that was the reason, though. I forget. I might turn the super chats on. I don't know. I actually don't have much of a problem. Well, I don't know. I don't have much of a problem with the super chat concept. Compared to all the other ways there are to make money and what's happening to the internet generally, it seems rather benign. I just think part of the problem with the super chats, at least from what I've seen, granted I don't really watch much streams and stuff, but from what I've seen, it's just kind of become a convention that, you know, somebody gives a super chat and then you give them a shout out, and it's just become this kind of thing where it's like an instant exchange for attention, and I don't think that's very healthy, you know, for anybody. The feature itself is not that bad. It is a little bit because if you have more money, you basically get more visibility on your comments. But when you consider all the different ways that there are, I mean, if you ask me which is worse, super chats or ads, I don't know. It's all really about they're all the same thing really, because they exchange money for attention of different kinds, you know. Yeah, I get that too. If you don't want a Patreon, I get that. Yeah, I'm glad that there is kind of another way to support if you're not happy or you don't have a Patreon and you don't want one. You know, I totally relate to the idea of not wanting to set up an account, especially if I'm the only guy you want to give money to or something. I find that very relatable, you know. But I hate making new accounts for things. I try to do it as little as possible, but basically. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, Dingalo. I don't know. That is something that I would like to do as well, yeah. If it was possible. Somebody was talking about recommendations earlier. I've taken a recommendation from the chat. Somebody mentioned On a recent stream, somebody, I think I was asking for recommendations maybe, somebody mentioned Shiren the Wanderer, I think. That was going cheap. It might still be on sale. It's a mystery dungeon game, I believe. I don't know that much about it. I haven't played it yet, but I took the recommendation at least. I might give that a go soon. But I'm in more of an arcadey mood, so this isn't really the best time for it. Someone says I recommended Logic Bombs. I don't know what the story is, but the game's been getting a lot of reviews lately. I don't know why. Is it because does Steam encourage you to leave reviews at the end of the year or something? I don't really engage with any of that stuff, so maybe there's some kind of encouragement there. Or maybe it's just that and people are finally getting through it or something. I don't know. I don't know what the story is. I don't really like watching stuff like the Game Awards or anything like that. To be honest, I find it... Yeah, well, I'll just be honest. Sometimes I find it kind of demoralizing just looking at all the games that I have no interest in. I don't know. On the other hand, sometimes I feel compelled, like I have to, because every once in a while there's some game that looks cool and I want to put it on the wish list or whatever, and it's the kind of thing that'll just be buried the next day and I won't find it otherwise, you know? It's kind of the same way with E3 when that was happening and whatever little thing you want to talk about, like a Nintendo Direct or something like that. It always feels like there's the potential, at least, for some unexpected, nice, pleasant surprise to show up, and you're more likely to miss it if you don't watch the show, because everybody will be talking about whatever, I don't know. Some big game, you know? Yeah, but even if you go to a news page, it's not quite as good at surfacing things than just watching through. I don't know. I think I said this already, but it'll be a shorter stream than usual. Maybe even shorter than yesterday's, maybe. Wipe Escape could be fun, yeah. Maybe that's what the Astrobot team will move on to. I still haven't played that game yet. Seems like it'd be a good fit for them though. Do you watch gameplay videos of the games you haven't played yet? A little bit sometimes, depends on the game. Depends on the game. I let the hype get the better of me with Tears of the Kingdom. I held off on watching that Aonuma Presents thing. I think they released that 2 or 3 weeks before, maybe 3 weeks before the game came out. And I watched it about a week before it came out, so I held off as long as I could. I still kind of wish they hadn't done that because we were so close to release, but I understand. I understand why. Why do you isolate yourself from ad campaigns before a game comes out? It depends on the game. I think I've talked about this before, so I'll keep it brief. But basically, for something like... I really am going to try and do this the next time a Zelda game gets revealed in particular. There's some series, Zelda would be the main one for me, I think, where it doesn't matter what they reveal about the game, right? I've played 20 Zelda games. I enjoy the series. I'm interested in what they're doing with it lately. I think even, to put it another way, even if the game came out and everybody said this is by far the worst Zelda game ever, I cannot believe Nintendo released this, what were they thinking? It's the worst thing ever, blah 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 blah, and I knew nothing else about it. I just knew that everybody hated it. I would still play it because I have to see for myself. I don't, basically part of it comes from just I don't trust the majority opinion on things, you know, like I just don't trust it. I don't trust what people say about it. I have to come to it myself and make up my own mind, you know. With certain series anyway. There's other series where of course you have to decide what it is you're going to spend your money on, and if they don't show you anything that looks interesting to you, then you know you're just not going to be interested, because you can't buy every game that comes out, and even especially nowadays as well, there's not enough time to play everything that comes out either, you know. So sometimes I am looking for a reason to try this game over other games that are vying for my attention. But with certain series and with certain games or whatever, or certain developers, you know, again for Okami 2, and Okami 2 is probably one of the least interesting things, I think, for me personally, that I think Kamiya could be working on. You know, I think I would probably be less interested if he was making a new Resident Evil, just because I know that's not really his thing, and I think there's less that he could do with a new Resident Evil than he could with a new Okami. You know, but also it was much less likely that he would ever make a new Resident Evil anyway. You know, they have their own developers for that. They're happy with that, and I don't think he wants to do it. So realistically, Okami 2 is about the least interesting announcement that Kamiya could have had, for me personally. I know a lot of people are excited for it, and that's great. But I'm still going to play it. You know, like, I'm just going to play everything that guy makes, because he's done so much great stuff that I just have to see, right? If everybody says Okami 2 is bad, what were they thinking? I can't believe he did this kind of change or whatever. If anything, that just might make me more interested in it at this point, you know? So there are certain series and there are certain developers that there's just no need to sell me on them. And so if there's no... the information does not do anything. It doesn't change... it doesn't change what I'm going to do, so why take it? All it does is creates the risk of, like, ruining something in the game, you know. Yeah. I think, by the way, I have a good opportunity to illustrate this, so it maybe, if this confuses anybody, this is not it's not an irreversible sort of thing, right? So it's not just some kind of stupid brand loyalty that's going to endure forever just because, right? If they put out, you know, I don't know what number it would have to be, but let's say they put out 3 bad Zelda games back to back, then I'm going to go, you know what, maybe next time I'll wait and see, because it's not what it once was, right? Likewise with Kamiya or anybody else. I kind of have an example of this, right? Lately, because the 100 line came out this year, and I didn't enjoy it. But I enjoyed Danganronpa as a series, and especially, I forget what happens next in this level, especially V3. I enjoyed that so much that, you know, I'm willing to forgive the 100 line and see what comes out next, you know, and follow Kodaka. Is that his name? Kodaka, where he goes. He has goodwill from me, you know. That goodwill does not last forever, though, and the same is true for anybody, any developer, any series, whatever, you know. But there should be some amount of goodwill there, I think, if you feel strongly about what people are doing, you know. And in that case, you just don't need to watch trailers. So I think I kind of got into this on a prior stream, but one of the things I've been tempted to do, because is talk more about my personalized hopes for the next Zelda. I think I talked about it a little bit on a prior stream, but I didn't really get into the full extent of the things that I would like to see. Stuff that's just not main channel material, you know. That's if the game turns out to be totally different, I'll go in with an open mind. But stuff where if they revealed it about the next Zelda, I would be going, oh, that's cool, that's what I want to see. So I don't know. I don't know how much of this I talked about before. I know they toyed with the concept, but I want to see old Link, you know. I don't think I'm going to get to, but I would like to. I think that would be nice. Again, maybe I'm just repeating stuff that I talked about in the past, but the reason why I would, it's kind of a twofold thing on that front, right? The reason why, or at least the, I will continue here once to practice this section. I don't know about old Snake old, but you know, old enough. You know, probably in the grey hair kind of range. The main reason I would like to do that is because there's a few reasons. It's just fun. It would just be fun to see a different type of Link than we've seen before. You know, that's just fun, and that is the kind of surprise that Nintendo likes to do. So maybe on a long enough timeline, I kind of do expect that to happen. And they actually did toy with the concept when they were doing Breath of the Wild. So there's clearly some amount of interest in it there for them as well. You know, but even just like Link in his 30s would be fine with me, or would be a step in the right direction. I don't know. But another reason is, and again, maybe I said this before, but another reason is just that the series can't continue forever with Link just climbing over everything and being very agile in all ways, right? And one of the things that you need to do, especially if you're a clever company like Nintendo who understands player psychology quite a lot, is one problem that they have with the next Zelda game is that if you can't climb over things, if Link is less agile, blah 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 blah, some subset of players immediately see the game as a downgrade. Oh, you can't even climb stuff in this game. What are you talking about? Right? But a lot of those very same players will immediately forgive it and not think about it if they have a narrative reason not to think about that. So if you give them the narrative excuse of this Link is old, he can't do that kind of stuff anymore, right? He has different struggles, right? He has to approach things from a different angle. Then a lot of those people they won't even think about it anymore. They will just immediately forgive. Like the thought of, oh, this is a downgrade won't even cross their minds if you reveal it at the same time as he's older, you know? If you went far enough with the presentation. I suppose putting him in his 30s would not do that, you know. I'm projecting from my sorry state in my 30s, you know, but that's obviously not the level of physical fitness that you would expect Link to be at in his 30s, right? But you know, an old Link could accomplish that, so that's one reason. But just it's also would just be fun. It would be a nice change, you know. Yeah, make him 60. Yeah, he should be in his 60s like me. Yeah, old Zelda and Ganon could be fun as well, yeah. Well, another one of my personalized hopes is just no Ganon at all, because I'm sick of him as a villain, you know. Yeah, I just think they haven't really done anything compelling with him. I just don't find him. He's. I don't know if I'm crazy here, but I find him to be. There's a lot of spin-offs and stuff, but he is one of the least compelling villains in the Zelda series, which is it's crazy that he's the main one, because I think pretty much any time that they've had a different villain, it has been more compelling. For me, at least. Anyway, I don't know. Yeah, Majora was way better. Wind Waker Ganon is the best Ganon, I'll give you that. Zant was better for a while, or at least he was on the level for a while, you know. I think Vati is cool. The fact that he was a Minish is really cool. That he's the bad guy, but he was just this little tiny guy. You know, that's fun, right? I don't really remember what kind of role he plays in the game, but I remember just assume that you're going to hear Zelda series spoilers here if you're okay. I'm going to talk about Echoes of Wisdom as well. Yeah, I liked the villain of A Link Between Worlds was great. That was great. The Spirit Tracks one I remember being okay. Probably better than Ganon. I don't really remember what happened in the story, but it was... I don't know. And I like the Echoes of Wisdom one as well. So... yeah. So Ganon's track record is not very good, you know, in terms of being a compelling villain. So I just don't think that they need him. We're well into this topic now, so I'll carry on. I would also like a break from Hyrule. You know, I'm pretty sure I've said that before. I would like a break from Hyrule. I think... I don't know, I want to give them credit because Breath of the Wild was... Breath of the Wild was a pretty big undertaking and a pretty big risk for the series. And I think they did some very ambitious things with Tears of the Kingdom, so I don't think that they're resting on their laurels. But maybe now that the series has gone mega or whatever, I don't know what term to use, it's gone ultra platinum or something like that. It's maybe they're going to be more risk averse, you know, with it. So I kind of expect Hyrule again, but my hope is that at least it will be kind of a different style of Hyrule, kind of like Skyward Sword or something like that, you know. Yeah, I would like to see different races as well. Again, even if they're being risk averse, I think there's a middle ground to be struck where they can bring back some of the lesser known ones like Mogmas. I suppose we're far enough removed from the game now that I can say this, but yeah, I really don't like spoiling things, even things that most other people would not consider spoilers. But I was expecting them to show up in Tears of the Kingdom. You know? I really was expecting them to show up. I thought maybe there was a statue of one of them. I don't know. I'm not sure what I was looking at. I thought maybe there was a statue of one of them. You know the kind of statues I'm talking about. I was really expecting there to be a village there somewhere, you know? But yeah. Of all the ones I can think of, probably the Mogmas are the ones that... They're the ones that kind of feel... There's some overlap there with the Goron, you know, and the whole kind of mining, digging kind of aspect of them. So, there is that. But they're the ones that feel most distinct from the other races that I can think of. And you kind of probably don't want to bring back those weird fucking bird things from Twilight Princess, you know? Like, maybe they just stay in Twilight Princess, you know? Oh yeah, actually, this is another thing that I have in favor of. Another thing that goes in favor of Echoes of Wisdom is they. Again, I don't like spoiling. Echoes of Wisdom spoiler. Okay, coming at you. They did have one of those Yeti guys in it, and there was a nice little story there with him, you know. So That was good that they reused that stuff. I like that they were willing to pull from lots of different eras of Zelda and mix it all together, because that's the way it should be, more or less. It's, man, people get way too hung up on the lore, and I can't believe this has never come up, because I've been wondering if I should try to clarify this or something. Maybe it doesn't need clarification, you know, but I kind of worry that when people, I think it was in the Skyward Sword review, I was talking about the Minish Cap, and I was saying that the Minish Cap was a good story, and like Skyward Sword basically contradicts it and blah blah blah. That's not really the problem, though. I maybe should have just left that out, because I don't really care about the Zelda timeline or anything like that. I don't think it's something that people should care about. My point, the more important point, was just that I feel like, at least at that phase, it seems like they've kind of snapped out of this maybe, but at that moment in time, it felt like the series was kind of obsessed with one-upping itself all the time. You know, constantly coming up with, you know, this is the earliest one in the timeline, and this is the important thing, but, you know. Whereas I felt like the Minish Cap was that as well, in a way, but it was a much more humble version of that. It was just like, here's how Link got his hat. Here's where the hat comes from. Isn't that nice? You know? And I preferred that kind of take on it, on the lore. Yeah. So I don't think they should really care about the timeline or whatever, in whatever they do next. I like that. I think Echoes of Wisdom was kind of an example of that. The way it mixed stuff from a bunch of different games together. Oh yeah, and I had the Deku Scrubs in it as well. That was good. They were fun in that as well. It's just good to see something that wasn't in Ocarina of Time again, you know? I suppose I do. I suppose more clarification here. I suppose I do have a little bit of a problem with I don't know. Maybe there should be a certain level of. Nah, I don't know. Fuck it. Whatever. I don't know. You think a mobile port of Logic Bombs could do well? Maybe. It's a good fit for mobile, but I don't have any experience with that. I don't know how I would get started on it. Especially because it uses its own little engine, and I think the outcome is just so unknown that I don't have much interest in it, you know. There is more than just the money. Look, I would like more money, definitely. But more than just the money, there's also the opportunity cost of spending more time on the game, you know. I do still have things to do related to the game. Like a developer commentary would be nice. But I more or less want to put it behind me. I forgot about those guys. And a port would drag it back. So I don't know. If you if you came to me and you said, listen, I have this document, or you know, well, I don't know that I would take some kind of deal. I know there was some developers got a Netflix deal for their games or whatever. I don't think I would take that for various reasons, but anyway, if you came to me and you said, I've done the market analysis and this is gonna make you 100 grand, and if I'm wrong, I will give you the money. I'm booting, you know, before you finish your sentence, I'm booting up my laptop and I'm getting to work, you know. But I just don't think it would make that much money, and I don't know, I don't think it would be worth the hassle. We're looking at the HD remake right now. It's just I have the settings turned off to make it look a lot more like the PS1 version. In this house, we respect the artistry of games made for old platforms, especially 1980s handhelds. Playing worse than I did last time I streamed, even though I've beaten it now. Explain that. For what console do I own the biggest collection of games? Looks like it's PS2. I think I might have more PS3 games actually. Because I would have had more money then, you know? PS2 was... I was still a teenager, but PS3 I would have had more money than I had when I had a PS2. So... But it might still be PS2, I don't know. I have a lot of PS2 games. But the difference is the PS3 library is a load of stuff that either I wouldn't want to play anymore or just would not be best to play on the PS3 anyway. Whereas I suppose they have a bunch of these games available on the PSN now, but they're still, I don't know. The stuff that I have for the PS2 is just better. I don't know. Maybe I just bought bad PS3 games. The stuff I have for the PS2 is better anyway. Although the unique downside here, of course, is that the PS3 games would hold up fine, but the PS2 games are all PAL. So they don't run at the correct speed, or they do 50 FPS instead of 60 FPS, or both, or whatever. So... got those gross spines too. Are you talking about the PS2 spines? I don't really mind that. I'm looking at the... Yeah, no, I think I'm fine with the spines. Because the PS3 spines are different. They do have art on them. And I don't know, man. When you're looking at a collection... Because the little bit of art... Some of them look kind of nice. Like Metal Gear Rising looks kind of nice. Because it's using the proper logo. A lot of them are just text over... They're just regular text over a piece of background art that you can't properly see. And they're less consistent with each other as well, actually, I'm noticing. Because some of them are in the middle. The logo is in the middle sometimes, like Devil May Cry, Metal Gear Rising. I have Drakengard 3, but I've never played it. Lollipop Chainsaw, that's an icon. That's a logo that's just in the middle. But Folklore, for example, is just a piece of text that's off to the left, and then there's thing. They clearly put some effort into the spine on that one, but it seems like a lot of people didn't. Motorstorm looks like shit because the sky is visible on a little part of it, and it cuts off the moat at the top, and then or storm is on a dark background. It looks like shit. Whereas the PS2 collection is just all white with regular text, very readable. You're looking for a game on that, you're not going to have to take more than a second to find it. So yeah, I disagree. The Switch cases are more consistent. as well. They're red. They're just red with regular text. Although I think they've changed that for the Switch too. Maybe. I don't know. I don't have any yet. Yeah, I think I just prefer the text. Keep it consistent. I don't know. Yeah, I'm at odds with you on this one. I don't agree. I, I don't know. I can kind of see it, but I'm just thinking of the use case of, you know, you want to play a you have a collection and you want to play a specific game. The white or whatever, the consistent color and text just makes more sense. It is a bit bland, I'll give you that. I think the Switch ones look better than the PS2 ones because they're red. You know, there's a bit of personality there. It's the rarest game you own. I don't know. I will tell you though, a game that I'm very sad about is I don't know where Wipeout 3 Special Edition is. I have Wipeout 3, but I don't have Wipeout 3. I had Wipeout 3 Special Edition and I played it a lot, but I don't know where it is. It might still be kicking around somewhere, but I have, as far as I can tell, my entire PS1 collection there, and Wipeout 3 Special Edition is missing, which is, you know, that hurts because it's one of my favorite PS1 games, you know. I don't know, it might be my favorite PS1 game. I was thinking about that recently, having played this, because my opinion on this is very high at the minute. There's recency bias at play, obviously, but I don't know what my favorite PS1 game is. It could be Wipeout 3 Special Edition. It could be this game when it's all said and done, because I really like it. What's your favorite PS1 game, everyone? Oh, that's what the question was, or the comment. That's what it was from last time that I forgot. We'd have to go back 40 minutes on the stream to pick this thread back up. I saw a comment from someone, I think it was on the live chat, and I filed it away for later, and I forgot what it was, but I remember it was somebody saying that they kind of wish that I would just make a list of the best game for each platform or something like that. And I've actually thought about that before. Because I think part of the problem with doing a my favorite games list is, you know, it gives people, it just kind of, it can rub people the wrong way when your favorite games aren't on the list, and it kind of gives people a reason to ignore what you're saying, you know, or say, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about because he likes these games and I like those games and blah blah blah. Of course, it's very subjective, you know. But I was thinking, but that is an idea I had before, that maybe that's something I could, maybe that's like a middle ground that you could do, where you just talk about what's your favorite game for each platform, because that kind of narrows it down, and it's a relative assessment, you know. And I started thinking about that when I was playing Delta again. I was thinking, what is my favorite PS1 game? Because I started thinking about this myself independently ages ago, where I was thinking it's interesting that there's some platforms for which I think there's clearly a best game for the platform, you know. And the Game Boy is actually the perfect example of this, because you have to remember that the Game Boy is not the same as the Game Boy Color, right? So you have to take just the original Game Boy. The original Game Boy, clearly the best game on the original Game Boy is Link's Awakening. There's just basically just no question that it's Link's Awakening, right? If there is a better Game Boy game, I haven't played it. And there's other platforms where it's kind of clear, or it's mostly clear, you know. Yes, Donkey Kong 1994 is very good. Tetris is very good. They are not Link's Awakening good though. Like they're just not. I'm sorry. I forgive you though. I forgive you. I forgive you. But okay, so we have a difference of opinion there. But uh there's other platforms as well where you can narrow it down to a few, right? If you want to put in Tetris and Donkey Kong, okay. But you can narrow it down to a few. I think the NES is another one. So if you get people to say what are the top 3 NES games, you're going to get you're going to get the same answers a lot at a time. Not every time, and there's room for difference of opinion there. But yeah, people are already coming out with the right answer for the NES. It's Super Mario Bros. 3, right? It's just so obviously Super Mario Bros. 3. The main competition is The Legend of Zelda, right? So if you're not saying Super Mario Bros. 3, you're saying Zelda, or then you fall back to something like Castlevania, exactly, right? But when you actually play the NES library today and you look at it, you just Super Mario Bros. 3 is just feels like it's on a different level. It is just on a level of polish, and it's just different to the rest of the games on that system. So yeah, Super Mario Bros. 3, and I just wonder what are the other one? Is there any other systems that are like that? Because I think I had other systems in mind, but I can't think of them now. I think the NES and the Game Boy are the two strongest examples. Oh well, another example would be, it's maybe a little bit unfair, but the PC Engine, TurboGrafx. Anyone want to guess what the best PC Engine game is? Okay, I'm waiting for them to roll in. It's Rondo. Rondo. Look at how many Rondos we got. So many Rondos. Everybody says Rondo. It's Rondo of Blood. That's the overwhelming consensus. That might be the stronger consensus than the Game Boy. It's Rondo of Blood. Rondo of Blood is the best. Is the best PC Engine game. Yeah, everybody's for anybody who can't see the chat. Everybody in the chat is laughing at the chat, I think, rather than me. Everybody's laughing now because everybody said Rondo at the same time. It's Rondo of Blood. But I think once you get past those consoles, it's a little harder to name them, right? Maybe the N64 has a few, but I think there is, even just between saying you prefer Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask, there's room there. And then there's other games like Sin and Punishment and stuff. It gets harder with the N64. Right? It's hard with the PS1. PS1 has a very diverse library. I'm pretty sure that my answer would not be the same as a lot of people's answers on the PS1, Because when I think of what's my favorite PS1 game, I'm thinking of it's Wipeout 3 Special Edition, or it's Abe's Exodus, or it's R-Type Delta, maybe, maybe if the recency bias holds up. It gets harder. PS2 is impossible, right? But what is it about? How is it that there's consoles where you can do that and some where you can't, I'm glad I came out with the PC Engine example, because that really is the best one. N64, there's a lot of games you could pick on the N64. Yeah. I'll be honest, I think Sin and Punishment is great. I don't know if it's my favorite N64 game though. I don't know. start over? I'll use one continue here. It's definitely, Sin and Punishment is definitely up there. Well, if you could combine Ocarina and Majora as one game, then I do think there would be no question. Yeah. But that's not fair. Paper Mario is another good choice as well. That's a very fun game. Star Fox 64, yeah. I haven't played that in many years, man. I gotta get on that. I'm on my arcade kick, so maybe I'll get around to that soon. I'm curious to see how I feel about that now, because I haven't played that in many years. I gotta get back on it. What do you think would be the Switch one now that the gen is over? Logic bumps. The thing is, it just is harder on modern consoles. Coffee. Thank you. Gonna get some coffee. I don't think Bayonetta Origins is the best game on the platform. But it might be the most underrated game on the platform, honestly. I've been weighing up in my head. I'm keeping track of games that I might want to recommend, you know? And I feel like, because I was talking before about whether or not I do a recommendation video depends on how the game did as well, kind of, or what the perception of the game is, or something like that. Because like I said before, it's a great game, big fan, but there's kind of no point recommending Pizza Tower, right? There's just kind of no point. It took off, it got huge. That developer is going to be able to make his next game, and it's not going to be a problem. You know, I would imagine. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't want to. That's for him to say, I suppose. But I imagine that he's going to be able to make his next game, and all's good there, and he's comfortable and happy with the reception of Pizza Tower, and it doesn't need any more recognition on that front, you know? Yep. Maybe it could still be underrated in the sense that maybe people don't fully appreciate the depth and the quality of it, you know? There's something there. But, you know, when you think about that, maybe Bayonetta Origins is one of those games. It's kind of hard to, you know, you think it's a Bayonetta game. Bayonetta doesn't need any help, but it really feels like that game did not get as much appreciation as it should have. So, I don't know. And I would say this even though yeah, I don't know. I would say this even though there's definitely aspects of it that are not exactly to my taste in terms of the gaminess of it or whatever, or the Ludo narrative, whatever bullshit, or whatever fucking term you want to come up with, whatever it is about the way the interactivity of the game is still kind of siloed from the story in a way that I wish it wasn't, because I'm not going to spoil it, right? But obviously Bayonetta and Cheshire, their relationship is a big part of the game. And when I think about, you know, Child has relationship with big dangerous beast, I think about The Last Guardian, and I just think about how that's kind of more my ideal of the way that games utilize interactivity and tell stories that way and all that kind of stuff. And I understand not every game can do that, and it's very hard, And I'm not promising that I can always do that or whatever. I get it. And it can still be a nice story on its own, but that part of it does... It calls up the comparison, at least in my mind, you know what I mean? And that comparison, at least, falls unfavorably for Bayonetta Origins in my mind. But the game does have a lot going for it otherwise. I suppose since we're in the Game Awards season, I think... Somebody look this up for me, please. But correct me if I'm wrong. The year that Bayonetta Origins came out, could somebody do a fact check on me here, please? I know for sure that it didn't win Best Art Direction. But as far if I remember correctly, it wasn't even nominated for Best Art Direction, right? Somebody want to? Okay, it wasn't nominated. This tells you everything you need to know about the Game Awards. Bayonetta Origins was not nominated for Best Art Direction in that year. And if you look at the list, it is probably junk in comparison. The art direction of that game so far eclipsed everything else that came out that year. It was unreal. The level of polish on it as well as a Switch game was crazy. I'm giving out about... Yeah, Bayonetta Origins, yeah. Right? The art direction, just crazy, right? It's just it's a beautiful game, isn't it? It's so okay. You can go. Hello
everyone.
She said hello.
Okay, I'm going.
Okay, bye. Best art direction was won by Alan Wake 2. I haven't played Alan Wake 2, so I suppose I can't comment on that, you know. But man. I don't know. I don't want to be a hypocrite. I suppose what I really should do is I should go and play all those other games and see if all the other games that were nominated and see. But come on, man. Come on. That game, if that game is nothing else, if Bayonetta Origins is nothing else, it is absolutely beautiful to look at. Beautiful. And it runs well, like at least for a Switch game, you know, it runs well. There's some kind of loading effect or something, I forget what it is, when you're leaving the Tiernan O's that looks fantastic. You go back into the world seamlessly or something, or maybe I'm thinking of Bayonetta 3 there, because I think that was pretty good in Bayonetta 3 as well, even though obviously it struggles a bit on the Switch. But you know, man, what a beautiful game. For it to not even be nominated, like, who gives a shit, man? How could you give a shit? Here, I'll give you another one. Someone can fact check this for me as well. I'll admit this one is more subjective, right? I think obviously there is subjectivity in all of this stuff, right? All of this is subjective and everyone's entitled to their opinion and all that shit, right? That's all true and all good and all that. I think this is a more subjective call, maybe, you know, but someone can run a fact check for me as well. I'm pretty sure Shin Megami Tensei 5 did not get or Vengeance did not get nominated for Best Soundtrack. Metaphor got nominated last year, and Shin Megami Tensei 5 did not get nominated. No, but hang on. The thing is, I get what you're saying. Somebody says Shin Megami Tensei 5 soundtrack was mostly from the original, and Metaphor got nominated. For 2 points there. First of all, Metaphor being from the same company doesn't mean that the soundtrack of 5 should not be nominated. If Square Enix puts out 5 amazing soundtracks in 1 year, they could all be Square Enix games. That doesn't matter, right? Secondly, Vengeance had enough original music for a whole new game, or for 2 new games, maybe even, you know. I agree, Tectonic. Metaphor is not my favorite Meguro soundtrack either. I thought it was good. It was definitely good. It was not his best work, and that's okay because he's a very good composer. So it was still very good, and I liked it. But I preferred the Vengeance soundtrack. That came out in the same year, and I preferred the Vengeance soundtrack, you know. I don't know where I saw this. There was some kind of poll or something. I don't know where I saw this, but this would be this is a nice story to share. A nice story that I could be making up because I don't have a source, right? It came to me in a dream. They did some kind of internal poll at what's their name again? Atlas, for Shin Megami Tensei. I think this is how it went down. They did an internal poll of the employees on what their favorite Shin Megami Tensei tracks were, and obviously a huge number of them were from Meguro, and I think at least one of the tracks that made it from the new composer, I always forget his name even though I'm a huge fan, Ryota Kozuka, I believe is his name. One of the tracks that made it in was the Tokyo theme from SMT4, and Meguro wrote a really nice thing saying he believes that more of Kozuka's stuff should be in here, and like this track in particular is really good, the SMT4 theme, that he loves it, you know. And I thought that was nice. I thought that's nice to see a guy who has had a very storied and excellent career talking about this new guy doing a really good job, you know. That's just nice. That's just a nice story. So there you go. But yeah, I think Meguro did a really nice job on Metaphor, but it's not his best. You know, there's still yeah. I would definitely put Persona 5 above it, and Persona 3. Catherine's a little hard to quantify because a lot of it is remixed classical music, but I would probably put Catherine above it as well, you know. I think it's worth saying as well that, you know, it could still be true that it's not Meguro's strongest soundtrack, and it could still have been the best soundtrack of the year. You know what I mean? Because there's not a lot of composers that are as good as him. But yeah, for Vengeance to not even be nominated is just fucking insane. Absolutely insane. I don't know. Who gives a shit, man? The problem is just that people treat the Game Awards as though it's the awards that counts. Somehow Jeff and Co have built up this kind of prestige around it that Expedition 33 is going to win the Game of the Year. Man, the Game of the Year is whatever you say it is. End of story. Wipeout Futurism art book. I didn't. Is it specifically about Wipeout, or is it some kind of Designers Republic thing? I'm not aware of it, so I don't know. Yeah, I think Team Cherry's not going to be there. I respect that, man. I respect it. I don't think they're making some kind of huge statement about it exactly. They probably just don't want the publicity one way or the other. I don't know. But, yeah, if they're not going, more power to them. By the way, in the interest of further clarification, I haven't played Expedition 33 yet, and it very well could be my game of the year for all I know. I would like to play it, so who knows. I don't expect that it will be, honestly. If I'm doing sort of preliminary assessment about it, I don't think it's going to be Expedition 33, but I think it's been kind of a weak year, honestly, overall. Maybe I missed some stuff. I was busy, so I didn't get around to stuff for a large part of the year, and now I'm playing a game from 1998 or something instead of playing recent stuff. But I think it was a pretty weak year overall. It's been good. Yeah, I did play 100 Line, unfortunately. Well, I didn't do all the endings of 100 Line, but I did a lot of them. I don't know, more than 50% at least. I felt like I got to I felt like I saw most of the stuff that had effort put into it in the second loop, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know. I had some nice ideas in there. I was very hooked in the beginning. I'm going to give a very early game spoiler. Very, very early game spoiler. But there was a little bit of that kind of Kodaka magic in it, where I really liked that Saray just got killed on day 3 or something in the campaign, because I really didn't expect it, honestly, because he's a mascot character or whatever. I just expected him to be around. So I thought it was very funny that your first loop through the game is just a bunch of announcements from him. And like, this has obviously all gone to shit immediately, you know? Like, I thought that was a fun way to open up the game. And there was a bunch of compelling stuff on that first loop, but I just didn't like the direction that it went, more or less, after that. I do give them points for the ambition, of course. Clearly a shit ton of work went into it, you know. I don't know. I kind of fell out of the habit of talking about my game of the year. This could change, but I think if I had to give it to something, it would definitely be Blueprints. I can't think of I haven't played that many games this year, honestly, but Blueprints would be the forerunner there. It's very flawed, but it felt new in a way that most games don't feel for me anymore, you know. So just for giving me that feeling, I think it would have to be Blueprints. Definitely some unfortunate flaws in there, though, you know. What are some flaws with Blueprints apart from being able to min-max easily? I think the bulk of the flaws just come down to kind of well, there is padding and pacing issues with the presentation in terms of some of the animations and all those kinds of things. I think it was patched a little bit, but you know, the starting animation for every day, if you really want to get deep into the game, it can take a lot of days to get through it. A lot. So for you to go through that animation 100 times, that matters. You know, that's an amount of time that you're not. Yeah. I'm very sensitive to these kinds of things. You know, I feel even a little bit guilty that you can't skip the intro for Logic Bombs, even though you only see it once. I feel slightly guilty about that, but so there's that. Now, to be honest, that stuff didn't bother me as much as I thought it would. If you were to show me a video of the game and go, you're going to watch this animation 100 times, I'd go, oh, for fuck's sake, really? But with the pacing of the game and all that, it didn't actually bother me as much as it might have, you know. I was willing to give the game a lot of leeway in terms of the presentation and stuff. So yeah, that didn't, but it's still a flaw. It's still, you know, these things could have still been sped up a little bit. This could have, the pacing of the game could have been improved a bit on that front, right? But then there's those other things where it's just, it feels like you can sometimes make reasonable inferences about. I think the first big flaw for me was the drawing room puzzle. I just don't think that that's a good puzzle. And there's other parts in the game that are. And the drawing room puzzle is unfortunate because it's so prominent, right? When you walk into the room and you see all the pictures, you just think there has to be something to do with this, right? So it kind of lingers in your mind. It sticks out a lot, and then the resolution to it was not satisfying for me. And there's a couple of other things like that where, yeah. But I don't know. I do have a huge amount of respect for the game, and I'm definitely interested in whatever that guy does next. You know, he's made a fan out of me. You know, I'm interested. So. He said recently, you know, he doesn't want to do a direct sequel, but it could be a kind of, you know, he could maybe do a kind of Riven-esque sequel or something like that. Give me the Riven version of Blue Prince and I'm all over it, you know? So. Yeah, it did feel a little bit like a Cyan game, and I think it did and it didn't. I think, I mean, it's just different. It's just different writer and all that, you know. Obviously, the storytelling in it was a bit more overt, and I think the way I would critique it, if you're looking at it as how did it do, if you were to say this is a new Cyan game, how did it do? If you're comparing it to the other Cyan games, I think one hole that you would pick in the game, it's not a hole I'm particularly interested in, but maybe the game would be better if it was addressed, is the stuff with the house feels very detached from the rest of the experience in terms of an explanation for why you do this. Like, why do you go into the house and draft rooms, you know? I think it's a testament, like, one of the things I think is really interesting about Blue Prince is I think it's a testament to the kind of power of games that you even can make a game where you walk into a mansion every day and the rooms are all different, and this is somehow almost part of the story as well. The story kind of takes it seriously. I think what I'm saying is the story takes it seriously, but not seriously enough. It doesn't reckon with, like, why is the world this way, you know? Whereas that's probably what they would do in a Cyan game. And you could imagine maybe old CRPGs as well. Like, Cyan games are not a million miles removed from that kind of, I don't know, way of exploring something which actually explains it, you know. the house is almost metaphorical in a way. It's not really metaphorical either. It kind of exists in this weird zone where it's... You get what I'm saying? But yeah, I don't know. To use a different example than Cyan, if you're playing Planescape Torment and you see something weird, there's kind of more of an explanation about why it is that way or what it is or what it does, right? Than the house and blueprints. The house and blueprints is just very strange and it's never explained. And I personally do not care that it's not explained. Honestly, I don't, right? But I'm saying that's a way that it's very different from Cyan's output and a way in which maybe it's kind of lacking. Because maybe the way in which the game improves is that if you come up with some kind of... I suppose what I'm getting at is, this goes back to an old point of mine, is that games used to be weirder, right? It's almost like Blueprints is not weird enough. It's like, if it was a Cyan game, they would be asking the question, what does it mean to live in a world where houses work this way, right? Whereas Blueprints doesn't really ask that question. It doesn't seem to ask that question or be interested in that. And I do think that that could have been an interesting angle to approach it from, you know. But it really is a testament to games that you can... Yeah, I don't know. Games just aren't weird enough. And I think maybe part of it is that developers think, you know, would it be interesting if you had this game where you go in and the rooms are different every time. You have to pick the room you go into. And then they go, but that's weird. You know, people won't accept that. That's just too strange, you know. And the Blueprints guy, he went, fuck it, you know, we're making this. And you play it, and that aspect of the game just fades into the background in like half an hour or something, you know. Within a half an hour, you're not even thinking about that anymore. You just, somebody comes along and goes, what are you playing? Blueprints, what are you doing? Oh, I'm drafting rooms, you know. And you're like, this has just become part of your normal everyday experience of playing Blueprints now. I think developers need to take that in stride, you know. There's a lesson to be learned there, is the point that I'm getting at. But I'm interested in games that are more metaphorical in that sense. But I think I'm probably over explaining my point here. Yeah, maybe this is the worst critique you could make of Blueprints. I'm not sure, but I suppose the point I'm getting at as well, another way to look at it, is that it doesn't explore the idea in a kind of scientific way, the way something like a Cyan game would. But also, it's not a metaphor for anything, really. It doesn't seem to be to me either. The fact that the house changes every day doesn't really say anything or make me think anything in that way, right? And that's okay, because there's lots of games where the mechanics don't make you think anything, you know. They're not a metaphor for anything, but yeah. There you go. Anyway, it was a very interesting game, and it made me feel like I was playing something. I felt that surge of your brain readjusting and going, what is this? What am I doing? What do I care about? You know, what does it mean for me to have a dice? You know, like, do I care about being able to re-roll rooms, or like, you know, what resources should I care about? What's my objective? How do I play this game? You know, yeah, that was very enjoyable. So there you go. There you go. I wouldn't say Kaufman-esque just because there's a lot of writers that I'm sure, you know, embody this spirit as well. Like, yeah. We're coming up on a pivotal moment here. It's probably a bad time to pause, but my coffee's getting a bit cold. I would say do not hold that against Blueprints. Somebody says, I'm sort of sick of meta puzzles in games, which I've heard is the meat of Blueprints, so I've been avoiding it. I think it... I don't think they really count as meta puzzles. I'm not sure, honestly. It's a bit on the line, but it didn't bother me, and I am a little bit sick of meta puzzles as well, kind of. They tend to be good, but it's just a little bit... It shouldn't be a foregone conclusion that that's what puzzle games have, you know what I mean? So... Do you ever feel that Kaufman's writing borderline marinates in negativity? Yeah, I said this on a prior stream. I said that Anomalisa might be the only film that's too cynical for me. It's just unbelievably cynical, it felt like. And then, probably the worst thing about the film is that it's so cynical, and then the final scene just kind of felt tacked on. It felt like a bit of a cop-out, to be honest. I can kind of see how it isn't, you know. I feel like the film itself, even without the final scene, can still, in a roundabout way, make the point that everybody is their own person with their own story and their own history or whatever. Without actually showing that last scene. Right, because the point is just that last scene doesn't feel earned, really, and it's the only thing that stops the film from being bleak all the way through. I should have given a spoiler warning there. I'm sorry, but yeah. Otherwise, it's basically bleak the whole way through, and yeah. It's not me saying it's a bad film, by the way. When I finished up the Switch port of Logic Bombs, I took the opportunity to watch some films. I have a head like a sieve, man. My memory is just not what it used to be. Actually, I'm not sure I ever had a good memory. I don't know. I'm trying to remember what I watched. Yeah, I watched Dream Scenario, and it was better than I expected. Not phenomenal or anything, but better than I expected. It is a fun film that felt like it had a point, you know? Felt like it had something it wanted to say, but it was also fun. And I forgot I'm supposed to be charging my charge attack here. I'm dead. No, I haven't seen Begonia, no. I haven't seen Kinds of Kindness either. I haven't seen that many David Lynch films. I have watched a couple of them. I watched Lost Highway. I'm pretty sure I've seen at least one other one. And I watched Twin Peaks. But I did not watch Twin Peaks: The Return. I should watch more Lynch stuff. The Return. Okay. Yeah, I've heard good things about it. Yeah. Yeah, I have seen Fire Walk with Me, yeah. Well, there's a benefit to leaving this thing alive. Hey, what the fuck? He shot through the thing. What happened there? I don't know. I'm watching that back when the stream is over. Bullshit. What the fuck happened there? Oh. I was reading the chat. Seeing how many people said whatever happened there. This should go fine, because I understand now that having the dose gauge full, that's why I was able to get through this thing. Oh, that's why it's dying quicker than it was when I tried it. I'm talking about off stream. I was trying this guy and it was taking about 4 or 5 waves of those things, which I find very difficult to deal with. The little projectiles they spawn after they die are quite awkward. That's a much better way to start that as well. Look at that. Yeah. Yeah. As long as I go in with full dose... Oh, we have to stop. No, no, no. Stop. Okay, for anyone who missed the last stream, I'm not showing the last level for spoiler reasons. Unless I get there on, well, 1 life now, I suppose, because I already got the 1 credit clear, so... Yeah. Nearly been out of 2 hours already. It must be getting boring watching R-Type over and over again. Maybe I'll try the tentacle type thing. Played with that one a little bit. I haven't played with the other one. But I'll try that. Yeah, I got the 1 credit clear, but I died twice. So it was not. It was not as satisfying as it could have been, because I died twice. I feel like it's, I don't know if this is what they're going for, but I feel like it's kind of a SMUP contrivance or trope or whatever you want to call it. It's a fun one. That guy with the cannon that appears at the start of the game. It's like this big guy appears and then you blow him up in 1 second. It's kind of like the game going, yeah, this is just the start, man, you know. This is, we're going to throw this guy at you and he's nothing. You know, he looks like the shit, but he's nothing. Wait until you see what we have in store, you know? That's what it feels like to me. I don't know if that's what they were going for. But that's the way I take it. Hard to believe we're only a couple of days away from Metroid Prime 4. I have a question here, right? It's funny, Nintendo has been very... It seems like they're scared of... I don't know anything about the Switch 2, okay? So let's just get that out first, right? It seems like they're scared of miscommunicating things to consumers lately, obviously, right? With the big Nintendo Switch 2 edition thing emblazoned on their games and all. And I get it, you know, after what happened with the Wii U, I get it. But funnily enough, I actually am confused about something, right? Even though I tried briefly to find information on this, and I don't know, right? I would like to play Metroid Prime 4, but I don't have a Switch 2 yet. I don't know when I'm going to get one. I don't know. I'm on the fence about it. I know I am going to get one. Partly because of, like, this ties back into what I was saying earlier. Because the second Nintendo announces a Zelda game for it, I have to buy the console. You know. Well, I don't have to get it the second it comes out or whatever. You know. But obviously, I'm going to play the next Zelda game. And there's other games already that I'm interested in, right? Like Bonanza, I'd love to play that kind of stuff. I personally am a little tired of always getting the first revision of something, and then another version comes out. I don't even mean the OLED. You know the way the battery got upgraded on the Switch. And also, I bought a Steam Deck right before the OLED came out. You know, it would have been nice to have more storage and a better screen or whatever. I can't say I regret the Steam Deck though. I've gotten a shitload of use out of it, so you know, and I'd probably get a shitload of use out of the Switch 2 as well. Long story short, kind of on the fence about when I want to get it, because I really don't expect a revision of the console to arrive anytime soon, not even for a die shrink or whatever. Yeah, they might get more expensive if anything. Yeah. But here's my question: is I heard that if you buy the Nintendo Switch 2 edition of, say, Tears of the Kingdom, you can still play it on Switch 1. Is that true for Metroid Prime 4 as well? Do we know for sure that that's true? Because obviously because I'd like to play the game, I want to play the Switch 2 edition, but if I can't do that in the interim, I at least want to own the Switch 2 version for when I get the Switch 2, you know? Yeah, you would think that they're so. Yeah, somebody asks, aren't they separate upgrades? You would think so, but what I heard is, at least for the Zelda games, I don't know how many other games this applies to, but if you buy the Switch 2 game, the Switch 1 version is on the cartridge, which is kind of strange. I know there's a slight price difference between them, so maybe that's the reason why they're doing it. But you would think that Nintendo, if that's the case, Nintendo would just have the one version of the game, right? Because wouldn't it be better for consumers to pay that little bit more and then they have the Switch 2 copy, so that when they get a Switch 2, like if let's say, I don't know, let's say 2 million people are going to buy Metroid Prime 4 for the Switch 1, wouldn't it be better to sell them the Switch 2 edition, even if you had to use the lower price point or something? Because now they own a Switch 2 game, and then they're going to go, oh, well, if I upgrade, I get a free, like, I already have the Switch 2 edition of Metroid. And it would just kind of reduce confusion, right? Then more people would also be aware that the Switch 1 version is on the cartridge. So I don't get why they're doing this, and it makes me uncertain that, I don't know, I'm just a little unclear about it. If I can buy the Switch 2 edition and then play it on my Switch 1, then I'll probably be playing that game pretty soon. Yeah, well, there's kind of two ways to look at the game key card thing. Some people are talking about it, I think. It really is an in-between solution in all the ways. I don't know. I don't necessarily blame Nintendo for that decision or whatever. Like, I don't. Yeah, because there is a bunch of Switch 1 games that are just codes in a box, and probably the ratio of that for Switch 2 games was going to be even higher. I don't know. But the two different ways of viewing it, the reason why I think people kind of talk past each other about the game keycards is there's two different ways of looking at it. You can look at it as it's a downgrade from physical, which I would say it is. You can kind of say it's an upgrade in some way, because I think if the game is stored on your internal storage, then it'll load faster, you know. So there's even that. It's kind of muddy in a way. So it's a downgrade from physical, but it's an upgrade from a code in a box, because at least you can give it to your friend or whatever, you know? Well, for that reason, I don't have very strong feelings about it, because I think it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, you know? But yeah, I definitely prefer to have cartridges. It's just nice owning physical versions of Switch games. Just feels nicer than, say, the PS5 or whatever, because maybe I'm not thinking about this the right way, but just a cartridge just feels like a nice physical thing to have, you know? Compared to a disc, it just feels better somehow. I mean, I've heard that they last longer because of disc rot or whatever, but I don't know. I don't know how true that is. I don't know what the story is with the longevity on the Switch cartridges. Could be wrong about that. I'm still acting kind of risky on that slug thing, even though there's no need for it. Okay, Wrench, I'll take a look at that. Yeah, thank you. I had no idea. No, Dingalo. I think that Kirby stuff, that would be exclusive to the Switch 2 version, so you wouldn't get that. So maybe that's not true for a Kirby. And the only reason it's true for the Zelda games is because there's no exclusive content. I don't know. Well, that's nice. 11 copies seems a little excessive. I don't think you had to pay that kind of penance for pirating it, but yeah. Somebody talking about pirating Ghost Trick and then buying 11 copies for friends when they had more money. What would your ideal video comment section be like? What are the comments you'd want to see? Somebody left a big comment about Metroid on the last stream, and I appreciate when people put effort into their comments, but I felt kind of bad because it's kind of like, it's almost like you're stealing from them, you know? This guy has put this Metroid thing, and then people engage with him and, or, you know, appreciate that he wrote this comment, and it's like, I have nothing to do with that, you know? So I want to sit here and say that, oh, you know, only the highest effort comments for me, please. But I'm not sure that I really feel that way, honestly. I'm just, yeah. This ties into something that I probably should have said on the last stream because I was thinking about it. But the Switch version of Logic Bombs really reinvigorated me, and that's part of why I went back and made some of those changes, you know. When I am the way I am, so when I make something, once I put it out, it's just kind of over for me. I think this is something that I may have to grow out of, though, because games just do seem different in that way, you know. Obviously I want a nice complete experience on day one, and I think Logic Bombs pretty much provided that. There's basically just one thing. There's one thing that I patched on the very first day because people suggested it, and it was very obviously a good suggestion about the way you place walls and markers and stuff. So I patched that on the very first day, so the vast majority of playtime is with that patch enabled, so it kind of almost doesn't even count, right? That was missing at launch. I have one other thing that I regret that wasn't there, which is the little flood fill effect when you beat a level. And it's a shame that wasn't there. But otherwise, I think I gave people a complete experience on day one, you know? And that's what you want. But even so, you do have to do a certain amount of support on the game after it comes out. And that kind of sucks because, yeah, I don't know. It's just part of the way I work is I just... I get to the point where I just don't want to do it anymore. You know, I'm just like, anything more than this is overkill. I don't want to do it anymore. I've done enough. I'm not interested. It's over. And then I put it out, you know. And this is my roundabout way of saying that I don't really care all that much about what the comments are, because when I make a video and I put it out, I'm just not really interested in engaging with the comments myself. I'm glad if people do, and if you get something out of it, that's good. But I'm just not personally all that interested in it, you know. Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Said that the flood fill is good, and yeah, I was hoping that too, that it would address the concern, because it seemed like one of the things people were struggling with was the zoning rule, you know, and it's not highlighting. Well, now it kind of does highlight the zones in real time as well, kind of. Yeah, I won't name names there, but for anybody who wasn't, because I'm not sure if they're going to be named, but for anybody who wasn't following along, if you check the patch notes, somebody there hacked the game to show that a highlight effect could work on the Game Boy. I was spreading misinformation on a prior stream. I said you can't do a recursion on the Game Boy. You can. The GBDK documentation strongly advises against it, but it turns out I should not have listened because it was fine in the end. Anyway, so that effect does kind of help, but yeah, I think it has the twofold purpose, you know, of making the end of the puzzle more satisfying, but also hopefully clarifying the zoning thing for people, which is a big win, you know. So yeah, very happy with that change. I wish that's the one thing I really wish had been there on day one. What do you think about comments praising your video or commenting reactionary style thoughts to just a small portion of your video? Do you find value in those, or would you prefer them thought out? I've talked before about how the perception of things doesn't matter to me as much as it does for other people, or seems to matter for other people, you know. In both ways. I don't take the negativity as hard, but I also don't take the praise as hard either, so it's kind of a double-edged sword, you know. But it is nice. It's nice to get kudos, isn't it? You know. I don't have particularly strong feelings about it, though. You know. I think mainly what I would like is I would like for the comment section to be valuable for the people who are commenting. You know, if you're getting if you're in the comment section and you're contributing and you feel good about what you're doing there, that's good, you know. Yeah, I would say that's not the only time. That stream where the guy wrote the Metroid stuff, last stream, if anybody's interested, but that's not the only time where I have felt a little bit guilty. Somebody comes in and they write this enormous post, especially if the video's been up for a while and you just think probably nobody is reading these comments anymore, you know. Somebody comes in and just leaves a big mega comment talking about something, and very often it's not like critical of the video or anything, it's just maybe some spin-off thought that they had or some extra piece of context or something. And I feel a little bad that, you know, maybe that's not getting as much attention as it should. But I think as well, like one of the thoughts that has crossed my mind is, should I try to incentivize good comments somehow? Like, would it be good to do a comment response video or something? But I think, I don't know, I prefer it being a more natural thing, you know, rather than a system for people to try and game in some way, you know. So, yeah. Yeah. You can see the difference in power on the dose gauge there very clearly, by the way. That's how I learned that the dose gauge does more damage when it's powered up, see? That's rough. Many times writing a comment is more for the commenter than the reader. Like, it's good putting your thoughts towards. Yeah, that's a nice way to look at it, alright. If you get value out of writing them, then, you know, by all means. Yeah, watch how much more quickly this thing dies now. Look at that. Not playing very well today. It's a shame. I've been talking a lot more than I expected to. This always fucking happens. I've been running my mouth all fucking time. I just wanted to play some more type, man. You know? Why won't you just let me play R-Type in peace? Oh, it's a good idea. Yeah, I'll try the tentacle ship. feel like I had practice with these bubble things before I played this game, because there's something quite similar in Zero Ranger. If I remember right, anyway. They're more like crystal balls or something. Alright, I'll try the tentacle ship. Matt, you're often not loose with your opinions. Is it because you don't want to say something uninformed, or people might take it out of context? It's a bit of everything. Yeah, I don't know what else to say other than it's a bit of everything. I don't want to be uninformed. I probably, in retrospect, yes, I got very heated about it, but maybe I shouldn't have said that stuff about Bayonetta Origins, because I haven't played the other games on that list, or at least I haven't played Alan Wake 2. I don't know what else was on the list that year. Nevertheless, it feels fair for me to say that it should have been nominated. It's probably not fair for me to say that it should have won, unless I go and play all those other games. Otherwise, I'm being hypocritical, because I expect them to play the games that they nominate and award, right? Even though, who knows? Mario Wonder, Tears of the Kingdom, Lies of P. Okay. I didn't finish Lies of P, but I did play some of it. And I finished the other two. I actually did like the art direction of Mario Wonder quite a lot. I like that it felt a little bit strange for a Mario game. That's what they were going for, and I think they pulled it off. It felt like a Mario game, but a little bit uncanny in a way, without being overt. It still looks like a Mario game. You can kind of imagine... You can imagine another generation... Yeah, it's like Mario from a different dimension or something. You can imagine a different generation who grew up with that Mario, and all the stuff that's in that Mario is normal. We're just not used to it, you know? So I do think they did a very good job in the art direction in that game. I think they did a very good job on the art direction in Tears of the Kingdom as well. However, I am not going to justify that opinion because I have things that I would rather talk about in a different format, let's say. That does not mean a Tears of the Kingdom review is coming. Lies of P. Lies of P did have pretty good art direction, must be said. Don't use the charge shot very much because the pod doesn't fire while you're charging, so that's the main reason I don't use it. I feel like I use it an appropriate amount, more or less. I should probably be charging it up on bosses, particularly that one I have trouble with. Although it's given me less trouble now. The penultimate boss, I mean. I'm gonna have to adjust a bit to this thing. It's a bit weird, it's a bit backwards the way the thing works. Yeah, it looks cool though. Here's a art direction thought about Tears of the Kingdom that I can give out now, because it's something that I probably should have said in the Breath of the Wild review. It's kind of there if you squint, maybe you can kind of see the point, but I should have said it at the time. And it's such a contrast from other AAA games. One of the great things about Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is, I've talked before about the enemy design. I love the enemy design in those games, visually and stuff. Also from gameplay, like they did so much cool stuff with them, picking up random weapons and stuff and all that, you know. I think one of the most underrated aspects of it, or at least I've never seen anybody talk about it, is the fact that they clearly designed the enemies to look kind of stupid on purpose. Because the stuff that they have to do in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is on a whole different plane of existence from the kind of stuff that they did in prior Zelda games, right? Where they mostly just kind of walked up to you or had some kind of tactic that they would use, and that was that, right? They were just basic enemies. There's nothing wrong with that. Plenty of great games made that way, you know? But they were going for something different in... No, I didn't quite say this in the video. I did talk about the Bokoblins, but I didn't quite say what I'm about to say. Which is, they have to do all this other stuff, right? They have to, you know, get on horses and pick up stuff and all that kind of... There's lots of different things they can do. Go to sleep and all that, right? They're supposed to feel dynamic and like actual creatures in a sense, in that kind of Rain World way, right? They really do a lot of the time. They wander around and they talk to each other and all that kind of stuff, right? But they look stupid, and the reason I believe, a large part of the reason I believe they look stupid is because the designers knew that they would not be able to make them into totally convincing... Yes, someone's got it there. Yeah. Someone's got the point. They would not be able to make them into totally convincing creatures, right? So when the AI doesn't function properly, when it can't handle something, when you walk away, or when for gameplay purposes something has to happen, like, you know, you walk away and the Bokoblin forgets where you are or something, you are much more inclined to forgive the game and overlook that problem because they look stupid, right? I think it's telling that I think like one of the biggest contrasts between Breath of the Wild and other games, like for example, I played Death Stranding 2 not so long ago, right? But Death Stranding 2 is far from the only example. You could look at other games like Cyberpunk or whatever, right? It's such a huge contrast. The Bokoblins in those games act more intelligently than creatures do in many AAA games. You know, they have better AI than, like, the enemies in Death Stranding, they don't have better AI than the Bokoblins, right? They have better AI than you see in lots of AAA games, and yet the developers went, it's not good enough. Like, it can't be a human. It has to look stupid, right? For it to pay off, for it to work. Whereas most games are just going all ahead. We're going to have worse AI than Zelda, and we're going to try and make them look like fully fledged fucking humans. It's ridiculous. It just goes, it's a whole different set of priorities, right? And it's like, I am way more on the Nintendo side on this particular issue than I am on the AAA developer side elsewhere. Like, why? Yeah. They just saw that whole thing differently, and they are bang on about it, you know? I do wonder if they're going to try and keep, like, what they're going to do with the designs in the next game, if they're going to try and change them, you know? Because it's probably time for an art style shift, at least to some extent. But they may have to follow that same design principle again, because the AI probably just won't be there, you know? So if anybody's confused about one of the reasons, because I get it, right? I get that there's a lot you can criticize about those games. I get it. But that's one of the reasons why I like what they're doing and why I respect what they're doing, is because they really are thinking about it in a way that other AAA developers don't seem to be thinking about it. I mean, it's just ridiculous. You can't believe that the things that you see in Death Stranding or Cyberpunk or whatever, you can't believe that they are actually people, right? And if the game does enough, you kind of set it aside and maybe you try to forgive it and forget about that, right? But you just can't. I don't know. It's just not good enough. It's not. It's kind of like what I said about the facial capture thing. It's just like you're jumping the gun. They were jumping the gun on this, you know? Somebody mentioned the human NPCs in Zelda. Yeah, I would admit that the human NPCs are not as well fleshed out, you know. Part of it is just that they kind of have to have Hylians in the game. They have to have something like that so you can have a town or whatever, right? Or even if they have Gorons and Zori, you're going to expect them to be, you know, of roughly equivalent intelligence to a Hylian and all that. So you kind of can't escape the problem there, right? But even then, they clearly made effort into doing things that would make them more believable, like the way they run for cover when it rains and that kind of stuff, you know? Thing is targeting his fucking head even though it doesn't damage him. What's the story? Why is it shooting his fucking head? Can his head come off? Oh no, nobody talked about that. This is just yeah, I'll say that's all headcanon. All that shit I said about this Zelda game. That's design headcanon. Nobody ever said that. But it just looks that way to me, that they designed them to look stupid on purpose, so that when the AI can't live up to the ideal, then... Nah, I think it's selling them short to assume that that wasn't the point. I do think it was part of the point. That's the way they look stupid. But I'll admit, I have no proof. It came to me in a dream. Oh, I forgot that gun was still firing. I think I'm going to wrap up soon. That's nice there. It's acting well there. Yeah, so I should probably just let it off the leash on this guy. Didn't Yu Suzuki have a game programming solution from a dream? I hope that's true. Yeah, maybe I should just be detaching this pod more often. I don't know. You have to give me a sec. I suppose I'll go a little bit longer. I'll be back in a second. Hello everyone, think I'm back. Am I back? I'm back. Thing probably charges the dose gauge a little bit every time it bumps into something, right? All I have to do is dodge this thing. Oh wow, that was quick. It seems like it's stronger when it's released. How do you find out about fairly niche indie games like Void Stranger, Nex Machina, and so on? From a bunch of different ways. If I play a game from a developer and I like it, then I try and find out what they're doing. I try to remember and check it out later. So, we were talking about Blueprints earlier. I believe the developer's name is Tonda Ross. And, you know, if I haven't heard anything in a few years, I'll just search for Tonda Ross and I'll just see, has he made anything? That's how I would have found Nex Machina, right? Well, I probably didn't have to search that much for Nex Machina, but you know, I liked Resogun, Super Stardust, and stuff like that. So. And then other things is just, you know, I do put effort into it, trying to find new things. Like using the Steam recommender thing. Interactive recommender, or the queue, I forget what it's called, the discovery queue, you know. Then also, just because I have an online presence, people will recommend stuff to me as well. But Gravity Rush isn't that unique if you go by what I've just said, because the director of Gravity Rush directed Silent Hill, and you've definitely heard of Silent Hill, right? So I'm pretty sure these shots can't be absorbed, but it kind of looked like I absorbed one there a second ago. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not enjoying this ship as much as the other one. It looks cooler, but the pod having more autonomy is a little bit, I don't know. Better for bosses, maybe. Weaker for regular encounters. That's kind of the impression I'm getting. Better for bosses in the sense that you can focus on dodging, but it does seem to take longer. I don't know. I think this beam is a little counterintuitive because it seems like it does more damage when it's focused like that. When my intuition would say that the beam is doing a fixed amount of damage, so if you catch something with the whole beam, then you're doing the same amount. That makes sense? Doesn't seem to be the outcome though. Like that, even though that guy covers the whole thing, I feel like I'm doing more damage if I just do that instead. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. pretty good when you leave it to its own devices on the bosses. Yeah, pressure per square inch or whatever. Does kind of make sense in that way. This part's gonna be rough. I've just realised. Oh, this part's rough. Okay. I have to say the game is definitely kinder than R-Type 1. The fact that they give you a bit there is very kind. I honestly think, even though I am by far from the best shmup player out there, I honestly think if I was making an R-Type game, I wouldn't do that. It's just a little too convenient to have the bit right there. Well, the fact that the bit only appears while you're in the midst of the section is actually pretty good, now that I'm thinking about it. Because it's something that you want, you know. So it can trip you up. So that's good. But it still feels like maybe it's a little bit too kind to have it there. I don't know. It's okay. Not bad. Fuck. That went so well. Up till fuck. Hyped for GTA 6? Not really, honestly. Yeah, I'll play it. Maybe not right when it comes out, I don't know. Maybe. But I will play it. I can't say I'm particularly hyped for it though. I was kind of talking about this with Itagaki. Saying, well, funny term to use talking about GTA, but like the games industry doesn't have that many rock stars anymore, and I think that's sad. I think like part of the reason why I'm not hyped for GTA 6, of course, there will be interesting stuff in it, and the spectacle and size of it will be something to behold, I'm sure, But I think part of the problem for me is that the GTA series kind of sells itself as, or at least it did, sold itself as a kind of edgy satire or whatever, and I just wonder, I don't know if you can even do that when you're a company the size of Rockstar, The amount of decision makers that are involved in everything to do with GTA must be enormous, So on the one hand, I don't know what term to use, because this is not normally the angle that I'm coming at things from anyway, so I don't even know what term you would normally use, but like back in the day when GTA started gaining popularity, it was always kind of popular, at least in our neck of the woods anyway, even when it was 2D, But it was a kind of, I suppose the term might be counterculture kind of thing, right? It was a counterculture kind of thing. Your parents didn't want you to play GTA, and you played GTA, or, your parents weren't paying enough attention to what you were doing and you played GTA or whatever, or you were allowed to have it as a sort of guilty treat of some kind, because back then it was mostly kids playing games as well, and so it was this kind of counterculture thing. But now it is the culture, right? How many people are looking forward to GTA 6? So many. So it kind of doesn't function on that level anymore, and the sad thing is just that a game of its budget kind of can't function in that way, really. Or at least nobody's willing to do it anyway, Maybe I'm being a little unfair, I don't know, because it's not as though, I don't know how to get out of this situation when I have that thing. I'll just have to go to the corner, I suppose. I can't, if I lose my car up here, I can't approach this in the way I normally do. I've got to adjust here. I don't know, it's not exactly as though GTA did sell itself on being countercultural exactly. Maybe it did, I don't know. It's always been a series about criminals doing criminal things, and it's still that. So in that sense it hasn't really changed, I suppose it's not really a quality of the game I'm talking about. I'm just kind of miss the era when bigger budget games could be more against the grain, you know what I mean? Because I don't think by any stretch of the imagination you could say that making a GTA game is against the grain, right? When it's going to make so much money. Should have just used the dose gauge on those things at the end. I don't know what people have been saying about what I just said. I wasn't reading. Probably be a good game, and there'll be a load of cool shit in it, no doubt. I suppose somebody there, I can't read the comment now, it slipped off screen, but somebody there said something like, maybe it'll be a game that has something to say, you know? I suppose that's what I'm getting at, is that most of these games, yeah. Well, there's going to be a shitload of cutscenes in it, right? There's going to be loads and loads of story stuff, but will it have anything to say? I don't know. Yeah, when do games have anything to say really happens rarely. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I suppose games don't really have to say anything because, again, you can just look at it for the gameplay mechanics, but I don't know. There's something that feels a little, I suppose the point is with GTA, there's something that feels a little incongruous. Why did I say that so weird? Incongruous about the presentation of the game and the subject matter and all that versus what it actually is, right? So that's why it might come across poorly. Still haven't actually played Red Dead 2, so it's a pretty big blind spot for me right here. Yeah, I want to play it, but I just thought that there would be a PS5 version of it by now. You know, my PC would not have played it at anywhere near acceptable quality. I think it's Steam Deck verified, but I don't really want to play it on a Steam Deck, you know? Slipped off screen now, but somebody was saying that Metamicro videos had a profound impact or something. Thank you. Sorry, I mostly missed your comment, but I caught a bit of it. But I'm glad if I had a positive influence on it. It's never taken me that long before. I didn't realize that it just floats across the screen slowly like that. I do not use save states now. I didn't even really use the practice mode in this thing. I used it a tiny bit, but not really. Yeah, this is rough. That little turret on the top has killed me a few times, so that's why I fired the pod off there. But I don't know. Do you think transitioning to game development in a world where there's thousands of great games but like 10 people who are good at video essays is a waste of time? Well, ignoring your assessment, because I honestly don't pay enough attention to what goes on in the video essay space to agree with you. I mean, I can't say I'm particularly interested in finding out, so maybe that's a problem, you know? But, yeah, maybe it is a waste. Yeah, I don't know. If you think that, that's okay. It's not an unanticipated question, let me put it that way, you know? It's, I don't know. It's just what I'd prefer to be doing, all things considered, you know. But yeah, who knows? Maybe more videos would be a good thing. It would be nice. Be nice to be able to do both. Let me put it that way. Although I think part of I don't know, if there was no money concerns and there's no expectation on me, you know, because I got my fame or my start or whatever as a video essayist, all other things set aside, I think part of the reason that you would not expect to see very many more videos out of me is just that I've already said a lot, you know. So it is harder. It generally has trended harder over time to make new videos because I don't like to repeat myself. I mean, I've done it here and there, you know. I do it on the streams even, but I don't see the point in. I wouldn't see the point in continuing the channel if it's just right. What you do now is you just pick the next big game that's out and you review that, right? And you just say, I like this, I didn't like that, I like this, I didn't like that. And it doesn't matter whether you have anything interesting to say, you just do it as a matter of course. That's not something I was ever going to do anyway. Whether I moved on to making games or just, wow, you can just survive that guy, you don't even have to kill him. I didn't know that. That's just not something I was going to do, you know? I do think games are still evolving and games are still, there's still a lot to say about games, but yeah, it's tough. And plus, you're free to disagree, but I think my standards have gone up about what I want to make videos about or whatever, and that makes it very hard as well. Yeah. It's harder to write a video now than it was when I started, which is unfortunate because you want your job to get easier over time, ideally, you know, but it just doesn't work out that way. So, yeah, it's my way of saying going off and trying to make games has definitely interfered with the channel, but maybe not as much as you might imagine, you know. Yeah, the Steam machine for me really hinges on the price. I don't know. I kind of don't want to name a price because I feel like whatever I name is just going to be unrealistic, you know? No, I can't imagine it's going to launch for this much, but... Well, I'll give like a range, right? If it's €400, it's a no-brainer. If they got it to €400, that's an absolute no-brainer for me. One thing I was thinking about with it, which is... I don't really think this much about software and hardware ownership and those kinds of things. The kinds of things that the open source community cares about a lot, you know. But one of the things I was thinking with the Steam machine is, okay, you want a new computer, you know, this would be an option maybe, right? But maybe it's going to be more expensive than you'd like. Is there some way you can justify it to yourself? Well, one advantage it has over consoles, at least, is that it's... If you get a new computer 5 years down the line, you can still do something with the Steam machine because you have complete access to the operating system and all that kind of stuff. The same's not true. Like, I think it stood out to me because of the Switch, right? The Switch 2 has come out, and who knows, I might be picking one up soon. I don't know, right? We'll see. But if I do that, then what do I do with my Switch 1? You know, it's just going to kind of sit there the way that my PS4 just sits there. It doesn't really have any value. My PS4 doesn't really have any value now because I have a PS5 and it does everything the PS4 does, and oftentimes better. So that at least wouldn't be true of a Steam machine, you know? And that's a nice benefit that shouldn't be overlooked. That you can actually do what you want with it. And maybe that doesn't matter right now. But it will eventually. So anyway, if it's €400, I think it's a no-brainer. If it's €500, I'm going, okay. I think I'll probably go, yeah, okay. If it's €600, I'm thinking, I don't know, man. Am I getting the 2 terabyte version for €600? What can you give me for the 600? If it's 700, I'm pretty sure I'm out at that point. If it's 800, I'm out. At least I think I am. I suppose I'd have to look into what the situation is like for... I've never seen the pod go flying off like that either. Cool. I'd have to look at what the situation is like for, you know, building a PC and how it compares, because things have just gotten insane. So maybe there is a way to justify €800, but at that point I'm like, I'm not really all that happy. I'm just, at that point I'm thinking, yeah, this is, I'm doing this because it's the least bad option somehow, you know? That's my feel. What do you think? How do you feel about my pricing situation? Does it seem reasonable? Am I totally out of step with the reality of the situation? No, I'm not interested in FSR, whatever. Keep your fake pixels. You can have all the fake pixels. I don't want them. God damn it! I know I'm not going to be able to avoid it forever, but yeah, I don't like it. Keep your fake pixels. Tell your lies to someone else. What do you think of AI helping to remaster games? Personally speaking, I don't want to use AI for anything. If it is going to be put to use, remastering stuff is not the worst use of it, I suppose. I don't even know enough about the Steam Machine specs to say that it is really low spec or whatever, but it would be nice if it, you know, I don't mind. I think it can be a good thing, basically, if it is a little bit on the low end. You know, just like the Steam Deck and the Switch can be a good thing for getting developers to calm the fuck down about the kinds of optimization problems they're having in their games and stuff. I can get through this guy if I just use the dose gauge. Seems like the pod's doing pretty well. Yeah, there we go. Okay, we're not doing the last level. It seems a bit late for me to start another run. I feel like going for a few more minutes, so I'll carry on, but we're not going to get far. We're not going back to this guy again. I'll tell you what, I'll do another one. I'll stick to my word again and I'll say until the next death. Then I'm finished, okay? Yeah. Anyway, it's been good. I talked a lot more than I intended to. I may stream again sometime soon. If I do again, I'm going to have to get out of the habit of trying to talk all the time, because it's just not sustainable, you know? I want to play the game. Want to play and enjoy the game and talk a bit less. I feel like I talked a lot, but also it's been something like 3 hours now, and I feel like I didn't talk about that much stuff. It's probably not really a good idea to streams in general. Like, just the idea of trying to interact with people and have interesting discussion but also play a game, it probably takes me 10 times longer to get points out than it should. I'm trying to reflect on what we went through, and I feel like the thing I said about the bokoblins in Breath of the Wild and all, I could have got that out a lot quicker. You know? Could have got that idea out a lot quicker, I'm sure. It's a little difficult. I've got my attention split, you know? We'll just shoot these guys so that I don't die on stage 1. Hopefully. I feel like arcade games are really bad for streamers because there's barely any downtime to talk or think about what to say, yeah. But something story heavy would be worse in a way. It would be better for chat interaction, but it would be worse for trying to take the game in. To be bouncing your head back and forth between trying to be immersed in a narrative and process the narrative and stuff. For example, granted I was probably drunk or whatever, but you know, when I streamed Resident Evil Remake, the fact that it took me forever to figure out that you have to put the fake key in the key thing or whatever, that just would not, I mean, that just would not have happened under any other circumstances, you know? It's because you're bouncing between things, you don't make connections the way you should. I don't know, just not a good idea. Streaming in general is a bad idea. This is the last stream. This is it. It's over now. Whoa, that took a lot longer to die than I thought it would. Unfortunate. I was trying to play it safe and everything. I don't know. I don't know how that happened. Well, I wasn't saying much anyway, so you're probably not gonna. No, probably not gonna miss out on much. Now we're typing or. I think blind playthroughs in general are just bad for streamers. Yeah, I don't do any blind playthroughs on stream. Now we're typing R. There's all my R's. Okay. Scud, you seem to have typed L by mistake. Simple mistake, I know. But you can correct it now by just deleting your comment and then typing R into the chat. I can understand how it would be easy to mix up L and R, you know, left and right, that kind of way. So, simple mistake, buddy. Anyway. He has a speech impediment. He's Japanese. He's Japanese. I did not do no damage on Alien Soldier, no. I feel like there's been enough Alien Soldier streams. I don't know. Maybe you guys don't get sick of the games. I'm very out of practice at it. I'd be up for playing some, yeah. I'm going to play more of this game as well, though. It'd be nice to get the no damage clear. So I'm going to keep trying for that. I may try a little bit more off stream. If you don't mind, if that's okay, chat. And if I get it, then I can just stream the tentacle ship or whatever, or try the hard difficulty. Anyway, yeah, it's always a bit of a blur. It always feels like it only just started and then it's over or something. I don't know, man. Whatever. You've had your stream. Okay, we've all typed door. It's over. All right, I'm going to call it. I will talk to you again when I talk to you. I'll see you later, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you had a good time. Hope you had good chats and all that. See you later.